Hey, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Take a Stand show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. And look at that. You probably thought, where the heck is she? She's not even on the screen. Helps if you push the right buttons to enable me to be present with you guys on the screen today. So I want to welcome everybody to today's episode because over the last week or so, I've had a few different experiences that I've had an opportunity to do some really cool stuff. And as a result of those experiences has come today's show. And this is really dedicated to all of you guys out there that sometimes feel like, you're just not being heard, or that you're feeling like, your voice doesn't matter, or that you're becoming the doormat for others and you feel as though you're being walked over. So today's episode is really, I suppose I'm going to share some story. I'm going to share with you some tactics and some strategies of how you can really go about finding your voice and helping you to understand the impact of staying silent, what the impact of staying silent actually has on the direction and the trajectory of your life. So that is my intention for today's show. With all of these shows, they are live. So I'm coming at you right now live on Facebook, on YouTube, in multiple different places. Now, you can have the opportunity, if you so wish to connect with me and also to communicate with me throughout the show. Now, how do you do that? Well, you use the comments section on Facebook. So you just can type some comments to me. I'm just going to switch that annoying phone off so it doesn't beep at me as we're talking today and be a distraction. So yeah, you can comment to me, you can chat with me. So right now, chat with me and let me know who you are and where you're coming at me from. And if you want me to be able to see the comments that you are typing, you also need to make sure that you allow StreamYard. You'll see that there's a little section that says allow StreamYard to see you. Otherwise, you will be talking to me and I will have no idea that you're doing that because your comments will not come through to me. So just please make sure that you do that because I want to make sure that I acknowledge that you guys are here. I can see a bunch of you are here today. So let me kind of go back a few steps with this. The Take a Stand show. Why did I create this in the first place? So this all came about after writing with a very good friend of mine. Her name is Vicky Helm. Her and I wrote this book called The She Myth. And in the beginning of this book, we talk a lot about the myths and the things that we are told as young women and that we tend to take on and label ourselves with. And we've named these myths because often we collect all of these labels and we call ourselves, I am not good enough. I am, not pretty enough. I am all of these things that we say that prevent or provide. They create limitations in our life. And so we wrote the book and we started out with this because there are a whole lot of, I want to say BS, we call it, something a little bit nicer for the market, which is she myths, right? So they are merely myths. They are not truths. They are just things that we have turned into a label, and then we've used them as to create our identity and to form our belief system. So when we wrote this book, it came at it from that angle. And then we went on to write about some of the things that you can do to become a really successful woman in your own right. How do you stand up, stand out and stand firm on what it is that you believe in and that you want to talk about. And that in itself starts to redefine the way that women are seen in the business space. So that's very much what this book is about. Now, when I go back to the reason that we wrote that, and then I start thinking about, why did I create the show? And I created the show to create a platform and a place for women to be able to come and share their inspirational story, their story of courage, their story of overcoming some form of adversity that they've had in their life. And that really has, I've realized that over the years, that's really been as my purpose and my calling in this this life that we have is to provide that type of space. So you'll see me doing multiple shows, in and around the virtual space for that very reason. I know that I'm the conduit that enables people to have their moment, to create a platform and a stage for people to share their messages. And by sharing your message with others, you then are able to impact them, often in very profound ways. So that's really the guts of why how this all came about and why I do the Take a Stand show. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that I've had a really interesting week. And why have I had an interesting week? Well, my husband was away for the best part of the week this last week, and that provided me with a lot of time to really be on my own and be thinking and reading and really digging deep into some things that I have been searching for answers on. And through that self-discovery has enabled me to find a whole bunch of things, but also given me some moments to reflect on, how have I come to be who I am today? How has that actually come about? And also, one of the experiences that I had during that period of time was that I had an opportunity to speak on a global summit, and I was on that summit with, I think it was about 16 other women, and we call it the topic, or the context of that particular summit was all about standing in your purpose. And the host asked me a really interesting question. And it really, since I've been asked that question, I've been thinking a lot about this. And she asked me, Trace, why do you do what you do? Why do you actually coach and train people now on how to find their voice? Why do you actually do that? And that actually got me thinking. It got me thinking back to, why is that so damn important for me? Why do I see that is, again, as part of my calling and part of what I do, right? So I have a number of different shows which create a platform to enable people to share their stories, to empower others. But why did I then take it the next step and start actually coaching and creating an actual coaching program, an online program that actually helps people to stand up, find the thing that they are passionate about, and start sharing it by using their voice, their authentic voice, not the voice that they think they need to create so that everybody else will like them, that everybody else will see that they're amazing. It's not that at all. It's like finding that voice deep inside of you that is authentically you. Why did I do that? And when I thought about it, it goes back to this. And I want to take you guys back in my life to a period of time that was it actually was life-changing, hugely life-changing. And it was when I was 15 years old. And I remember this time extremely vividly. In fact, the moment where I had to find my voice. And if I did not find my voice, then my life that I have led to this point would have been extremely different. And in fact, if I didn't find my voice, then I know this without a shadow of a doubt, that I would have lived a life with a regret that I just did not want to have. So let me take you back to this time. So I'm taking you back to small town New Zealand. And what I want you to imagine is that you grew up in a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Grew up in an average family, loving, everybody, gets on, and we weren't rich, we weren't poor either. We managed to get by. Everybody in the street, I could rattle off to you, even to this day, my entire street, which had something like, I don't know, more than 85 houses in it. The number of people that lived in each of those, I knew their names, I knew the families in those streets, and I knew the people in the houses in all of the surrounding streets. That's how our town was. So everybody knew everybody. So at this time, 15 years old, I find myself, and I'm going to say in air quotes, in we call a predicament. All right. So this predicament was 15 years old. I find myself, I'm pregnant. Right. What the heck do I What the heck do I do? And of course, at that time, when you've got all that going through your head at 15 years old, that is not what your parents nor anybody else had planned for you. And in fact, it's not what you had planned for yourself. But, life happens, things happen. Nowadays, I say, things happen for a reason. There's no coincidence. It's meant to be that way. And I firmly believe when I look back on my life now, it was meant to be exactly that. But that predicament found me sitting around the dinner table with my mum, my dad, and at the time, so my boyfriend, all right? And we were having this conversation about what the heck are you going to do? What the hell are you going to do, actually? What the hell have you done? What the hell are you going to do? This cannot be happening. What are you going to do with your life? It's going to ruin your life, blah, 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 blah. And often when we hear these sorts of things from other people, they're all coming at us with, obviously with the right intentions and with a lot of love, because other people often think that they have, that they can control your life and they can kind of pave the way. And what they say is right for you to do. And of course, as a parent, you need to give guidance and you need to give support. So I know that at this time, as I'm being questioned with all of these things, that was all for, with a lot of love. But seated in all of that, and you remember that I said to you that we came from a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. Threaded throughout all of those questions was not necessarily what will happen with Tracy and could she bring up a child and all of that sort of stuff. But in the back of the minds was, what will the neighbors think? What will people say when I go to work? So it was threaded and seeded with a whole lot of judgment. Now, there's a moral to this story, and I'm going to get to it, and you'll see why this becomes so important. Because often that level of judgment and fear silence us, right? So because we're scared of what other people will say and what other people will think of us, we don't speak up. We don't speak up about what we really want, what's important to us. Now, I'm going to tell you that on that day, somehow that 15-year-old girl had to find the courage to say, it'll be okay. I will be okay. I am going to be okay, and I can do this. And with that level of speaking up and determination, that then formed the direction and paved my destiny in life. Of course, I went on to have that son of mine who's awesome. He's turning 30 years old this year, and I went on to have 3 more. And, way back then, being told, how the heck are you going to do this? What the hell are you going to do? What are the neighbors going to think? We should send you away. A whole lot of stuff, right? And you have to find that courage to find the words to express what you really want and what you feel. And to this day, so, we fast forward 30 years, and that boyfriend of mine who was sitting on my right-hand side, who was there supporting me with that conversation on that day, is still my best friend and my partner and my husband of, I don't know, however many years, been together for over 33 years, which most people would have thought way back then, he's going to leave you, you're going to be a solo mother, so on and so forth. So my point with this story that I share with you today is that we must find our voice. Now, and I'm going to get to how we do that. All right, I'm going to get to how, and now you're understanding kind of why this is super, super important, because if you don't find your voice, some of the things that will continue to happen is that you will continue to live your life. Potentially, you're going to have some regrets. You will continue to feel as though you're being walked over. You will continue to feel as though your voice is not being heard. And when we have that, we create a level of unsettling on our, like in our inner, right? We create this level of unsettlement. So what you do get on the flip side of that, when you do find your voice and you are able to stand up for yourself, what do you create for yourself and create for your life? You create yourself choices. You remain the person who is in control. You maintain your power. You have the power then to be able to use your voice really powerfully to be able to create the direction of your life. You maintain the power, and it gives you a sense of choice. Again, like I said, you're able to live your life with no regrets. So you just imagine, and I hate to imagine this, but had I gone with, I'm going to do the right thing. I want to trust that my parents know the right thing, that they're doing this out of love. I should trust what they're saying to me, but knowing that that was against the grain, so to speak, against what I really believed I was capable of doing. Imagine to this day what it would be like. I would be living with such a huge amount of regret for not doing that. And I look back now and think, man, I would have missed out on a whole lot of joyful, moments with that son of mine and the two beautiful grandchildren that he's now created, had I not found my voice in that moment. So that's why I've realized now why I'm so freaking passionate about helping people to take a stand, to stand firm, but find their voice and connect that with what they want in their life and how they can go about going to get it. And when I realized that was kind of like the first real moment that Tracy Wilson, as I am now, had to stand up, find the courage to speak up about what I really wanted, that was the moment that changed everything. And I can now, think of many, many situations in my life where my voice, and using my voice very powerfully to connect with what I really thought and what I felt, was important. Fast forward a little bit. Now I'm in a corporate world, which is, mostly surrounded by men. I had to find my voice there too. Otherwise, you're the meek, mild little woman who doesn't, little lady who doesn't really have a voice or a place to be here. So you really have to find, that voice inside of you and speak up about the things that you really think you believe in. Part of this conversations that I want to create on the Take a Stand show are also about helping people to transform your limitations and turn them into liberation, right? So we're taking the limitations that we think we have. And because, most would say a 15-year-old girl, a child, you've heard these things before. You're going to be a baby bringing up a baby and all of those sorts of things. We've heard that stuff over and over and over again. But again, they are just, they're bloody myths. That's not true. If you think you're capable of doing something, and you've heard this saying too, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you betcha you can't. Whatever it is you think you can do, you are going to either be successful or you're not going to be successful based on your belief system. So there's a couple of things that I have also come to realize over this time. And I want to share these with you because there's this, as I've gone through life, I've realized that there's like these layers of transformation. And as we grow, we continue to have the opportunity to like transform ourselves. And if you think about, I think back about me being 15 years old, am I the same Tracy person that I was when I was 15? Yes, I am, but I'm a very different person in the way that I think, the way that I behave, the way that I manage and do life. I'm a very different type of person. So that proves to me that over time we can continue to evolve. Now, what are these 5 layers or 5 levels of identity or transformation that I speak of? And over time, I've kind of realized that there are these 5 levels of transformation, and I've worked a lot on these, and I've realized that and understand now what these 5 layers are. And most people, even though you may know what these 5 layers of transformation are, when I kind of go through them with you, that most people start in the wrong place, right? Most people actually start with their behaviors. So whenever we're wanting something new, so let's say it's you're wanting to find your voice, you're like, I just don't feel confident enough to do that. I couldn't say that. I'm still fearful of the judgment. I'm fearful of what people might say and what think of me. Like, how the heck am I going to find my voice and actually speak up and say something about what I truly firmly believe in? I'm going to go through these layers of transformation, and then I'm going to give you some, I suppose, correlation. And if you think about when we were young, we thought about the who, what, when, why, how, right? We all know that. And so I'm going to relate these back to the who, what, when, why, how type scenario, because you'll be able to grasp and understand that, and it will give some context to what I'm about to talk about. So like I said, there's these 5 layers of transformation. Most people start at number 2. What is number 2? Number 2 is all about our behavior. So a lot of people start working on, well, what behaviors, what do I actually need to do to start changing, whatever it is. So if we're talking about it in the context of finding my voice, most people would go to, well, I just got to speak up. I just got to say whatever I think whatever's on my mind, I've just got to say it and blurt it out. And it's not necessarily always that, because sometimes, even though finding our voice, we again comes back to this choice. Sometimes we have a choice to use our voice, and just because it's really, we're really passionate about it, it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to say, because everything we do has a consequence, right? So we want to use our voice to give us the right consequence and outcome that we're looking for. And sometimes we just shouldn't say things. Sometimes we do just need to use, button our lip and not say it at all, and we might just keep that on the inside. But if it's something that by the time I've gone through all of these 5 levels, if it fits in alignment with these 5 things, then for sure you want to talk about it. Okay, so if behavior is number 2, what are the other 4? And she knows. And in what order do they sort of fit in? So if we go back up the food chain, let's call it that, the next one we look at is capability. So the first is behavior, and the behavior is the what. Then we go to the capability. So we then go, capability is how. So I talked a little bit just before about sometimes we don't always want to use our voice to say what we think, because sometimes that is not always good. We need to use a level of discernment, and we use our level of capability. So we get good at sort of determining when is it a good time for me to use my voice for good, and when it is a good time for me to just zip it and not say anything, but still be able to feel balanced, still be able to feel joyful, still be able to feel okay on the inside. So that's a really big part of this, is still understanding that, I want to be able to, you say what you need to say. If it's, you've heard the term, get it off my chest, right? Because if it sits heavy on your chest, it's something that is important that you need to get off and you need to talk about. But you want to be discerning, and you create a level of capability, which is the how of being able to do that. Now, the next layer back from that, which is number 4, is your beliefs and your values. Now, they are very much aligned to your why. All right. So again, when I've thought about this, and I thought about it hard, about that particular instance where I had to find my voice, why did I have to find my voice in that moment? And I've thought about, man, how the heck, so many times, how the heck did that little, that 15-year-old girl find the courage and find her voice on that day? Well, it was firmly connected to why, because I knew if I didn't, so my why was, if I did not do that, that would have huge ramifications and I suppose, make such a huge impact on my life that was going to unfold. It was going to take 2 different directions. So my why was so strong then, and it was firmly connected to my belief system and my values. And so my belief system was, I can do it. It's okay. And those were the words that I I vividly remember myself saying, it's just okay. I am capable. I can do it. So I was saying those words out loud to my mum and my dad, and therefore actually convince them that, all right, then we're going to go down this path and we'll support you with it. But it was also firmly aligned with my values of family. And lucky for me, I was brought up in a family that had really good values, brought up in a family that was big, that had lots of, extended family. So family and children were really, really important to me. So at that time, again, I babysitted, and I was like that because I like babysitted a lot of my cousins. I mean, I could only imagine, gosh, if I didn't go through with this, what was I actually doing? So it was firmly connected to my beliefs and my values. The other thing that it was firmly connected to, and I've given you guys a bit of a clue on this, was my identity, who I was. All right. So this is like those I am statements that we often say to ourselves, right? So the words that I used back then was, I'm capable. I can do this. It's going to be okay. The most powerful words we can ever use is I am, because whatever follows that is what is going to create your destiny in your life. So if you say, I am useless, I am, not good at, I am whatever follows that. If you find yourself saying that in your mind or even voicing it out loud, just be very aware of the words that you are using that follow that very powerful statement of I am. All right. So I am. You want to say things like, you want to use empowering words that go after I am. Like, I am powerful. I am confident. I am limitless. I am happy. I am courageous. Like, those sorts of things are very empowering words. Why do you want to use those, and why are they so damn important? Because they start to form your identity, that they form the who you are. So if I asked you a question today that said, so who are you? You might say things like, well, I'm a mum, I'm a grandmother, I'm a business owner, I'm a blah, blah, blah. And you'll rattle off all these things about who you are. I want you to walk away from today, and one of the tasks I'm going to charge you with today is to go away and actually make yourself a list of a minimum of 25 I am statements. And I want you to formulate those in a very powerful way. So you want them to be empowering I am statements, all right? Because those, and you can even start, you've heard me talk about this before, and if it hasn't been on the Take a Stand show, it's quite possibly been on my other show called Unlocked with Tracy Wilson, where I talk about bringing the future into the now. So we want to start thinking about what do we want our life to be like in the future. Start bringing that forward and living it in the now, whether that's living it externally, you actually doing those things, or you're living it in your mind. Start doing that now. And by using those affirming identity statements of I am to help you create who you are, you will find it extremely powerful. The last one on the list is actually your environment. So again, I'm going to relate this back to me being, young. So at the time, that is, and if I'm using the who, what, when, why, how, your environment relates to your where and your what. All right, your where and your what. So way back then, to help me be ready to, accept a new baby and be able to look after it as new mum should, and all of those sorts of things, I had to create that environment. And a lot of the stuff, as I look back, I had no clue. I wasn't doing it at that time because I knew and I understood what these 5 levels of transformation were. Because what I knew, what I was happening to me at that time, right, is I was transitioning from being, or had to have a transformation from being a young girl to now being a woman and being a mother. And that happens instantly, right? It happens as soon as you have that baby. Your life is no longer your own. You have to have an immediate and instant transformation. Some of that happens naturally through just because that's what happens. Others is that, it's almost manufactured this way. And I never realized that way back then. But I know that these were some of the things that contributed to my and my husband's success now, creating, the family that we've got and creating the success that we have in our life. So is the environment. Environment is super important. The people you surround yourself with, the peer group that you create for yourself, the environment that you create, like your house, creating it, making sure that it is conducive to the way in which you want to live, tidy, clean. When we have a clean environment, you can have a clean mind. And then what sort of things did I need to do? Well, I remember way back then, my aunt, my cousin was born. She was a little baby, and my aunt actually gave her to me, funnily enough. Like I would babysit her on a regular basis. It's almost like, I'm going to say, practice, right? Again, that was, they weren't doing it. It wasn't manufactured that way. It was just done that way. And instinctively and intuitively, they thought, well, here you go. You can look after this baby and you can practice and you can learn how to take care of a baby. And I did that. I can remember her, go have a bit of a laugh with this, and I tell her this story often, but I can remember her sleeping next to me in a washing basket next to my bed, because I didn't have a crib or a cot at that time, but I had her there, made up the washing basket, and I would sleep her in the laundry basket. Like, you'd never do that now, but that's what I did. And that was actually creating the environment, the right type of environment to allow me to induct me, let's call it that, into motherhood. So what are the five levels of transformation? And you can use this, or when you understand it, you can use it in your life. And it all starts with that number 5 that I mentioned, is at the core level. It is your identity. And this is so powerful. And you'll find that a lot of people who, I'm going to use this as an example, who smoke, who then try and give up smoking, they find it really difficult. Why? Because if you were to ask them, are you a smoker or are you a non-smoker? They say, I am a smoker. And they continue to say that. They have to start changing their language often to then start re-identifying with not being a smoker. That's just one little example, but just to demonstrate how powerful this can be. So I want you to start, the activity today is write down 25, minimum of 25 I am statements that are empowering to you. Because if you can start there, then you can start to change your beliefs and your values, or realign them, or connect your new identity to the beliefs and the values you already have, which is your why. Then you can start working on your capabilities, which is the how. Then you can start working on your behaviors. So what do I actually have to do? And then you start creating all the right things in your environment to help support the new you who has found your voice, who is courageous, and who can speak out, take a stand firm, and stand out with whatever it is that you are doing. And today I've shared with you, that's really ultimately why I'm so freaking passionate about helping people find their voice and speak about things, and then helping them to empower others by creating their own shows and creating their platform that also helps lift up other people so they too can find their voice and share it with others. So I hope you guys have enjoyed today's session. I certainly have helped doing this or sharing this with you. And often when I share these sorts of things, it's almost therapeutic. It's like, as I'm sharing and as I'm speaking about these things, it's like it gives you an opportunity to reflect, to learn, to sometimes even let go of things. It's very, very therapeutic. So anyway, I want to finish today's session with this. And it's a quote by Dr. Seuss. And if you are still feeling like you can't find your voice through fear of judgment, I want to share this with you. Go and read the children's books by Dr. Seuss. But he says, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So there you go, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day. You must, just go and find your voice and use it in the best possible way that you can to do good in this world, because we need that. So thanks very much for joining me. I'll be back again with another episode of Take a Stand. And if any of you guys are interested in, getting a copy of the book, The She Myth, you can head on over to Amazon, search for The She Myth. It's available in all over the world, America, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, so on and so forth. You can go and download it and get it and read it, and start realizing that if you have got a whole lot of self-limiting beliefs or I am statements that are not serving you well, then the book is going to help you to identify those, and it will help you release them and realize that they are just simply myths that you can just let go. So have a fantastic week. I'll see you again on another episode of Take a Stand next Thursday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. So thanks, guys. See you, and I'll be back again next week. Bye for now.